What's up, everybody? Dr. Josh here, and today we are going to talk about emotional eating, emotion-driven eating, eating because you feel a certain way. You know what I mean? But seriously, we're going to talk about how certain emotions and feelings can drive behaviors. In this case, that would be eating. We'll talk about what they are and what you can do about them. Some things you can do about them, not perfect solutions for everybody, just some things that you can modify in your life. As always, if you found this info interesting and you want a little bit more, like, subscribe, share with a friend. Let's get to the episode. Now, talking about the 5 things that I want to talk about today that sort of impact emotional eating, or some of the emotions that drive the eating. Let's start in reverse order. Number 1, body image, which is funny to think about. It's circular in a way. So you use food to cope with your negative perception of your own body, and it starts this vicious cycle. You eat, you feel badly about your body image, and then you eat to cope, and you continue to do that, and you feel worse about the way you look, about the way you look in your clothes, and then you continue to eat more, and there's just this cycle that continues on and on and on. So poor body image can actually lead to more coping with food, and then that sort of just drives it on and on and on. Number 2, boredom. Boredom leads to, I think everybody has heard, it leads to mindless eating. But I think when we're bored, we sort of just click into this default mode where we just, we fall into our habits and routines. And if we're bored and, snacking was something we developed along the way, we just, pick up a snack. We're bored. We're watching TV. We're watching Netflix. We're scrolling on our phone. It is easy to sort of mindlessly eat whenever we feel bored. Number 3, not necessarily a feeling, but habits we've developed, things we developed over our sort of developmental history, how we grew up, what are the lessons we learned from our parents, and just sort of these habits, they change and shift over the years. But if we learned at a young age from either through our parents or through entertainment or media or just wherever we learned it, we can develop the habit of using food to cope with difficult feelings. So through our life history, we can just develop habits that sort of drive this behavior. Anxiety and depression. These aren't fun emotions to deal with, and they can lead to emotional eating as a way to cope. So one of the underlying sort of diagnostic things that you look at whenever trying to figure out if someone has anxiety or depression on a clinical level is just, are there appetite changes? For some people, it's appetite decreases, and for other people, appetite goes up. And in that respect, I think digging into the weeds a little bit there, the appetite goes up in relationship to events in a person's life that are perceived to be negative, or just sort of with anxiety, just anticipating and worrying about something can possibly drive this sort of need to eat and comfort ourselves when sort of other coping mechanisms aren't there. And so anxiety and depression, can absolutely lead to coping behavior. Lastly, number 5, stress. So from a biopsychosocial model, all types of stress accumulates and combines from all sectors of our life. If we are, if we're weight training for a significant amount of time, there's fatigue involved there, there's physical stress building up. There's great things, better things, arguably. I would say the good outweighs the bad there, but that's stress, it's physical stress. Psychologically, we could be dealing with a lot at home or a lot at work in terms of just our overall workload and our ability to manage that type of stress. So that's stacked that on top of the physical stress. And then socially, we might be dealing with demands from friends, from family, loved ones, spouses. We might be, in our head, in conflict with the demands of, the things that we want to do and the time we want to spend with our children or something like that. And so stress isn't just one thing. It's combined across all these sorts of different domains. And that can drive a lot of this emotional eating. And then when you think about stress, one of the things that happens is sort of sometimes there's cortisol release, which can lead to cravings, which sort of drives the emotional eating. So you have those 5 things that I think sort of play a good, decent role in what we see as far as emotional eating, body image, boredom, habits we've developed, anxiety and depression, and stress. But what can we do about it? So looking forward, if we know that we have certain habits in place, if we rely on food as a way to cope, what can we do to sort of mitigate that? To one, just develop other coping skills, and two, to reach whatever fitness, physique goals that we have. So I think here are 5 important things that I think. Number one, control the environment. I think whenever you are able to eliminate cues that signal that food, or the highly palatable food that we like, isn't available, then you are less likely to consume it. So controlling our environment is the first thing that I would do in this respect. I would go through my kitchen. I would take anything that is problematic for me, and I would put it I would put it as far away from me as possible. So if I have any type of if I'm doing a significant diet at the time, and I really enjoy a certain type of ice cream or a certain type of food, I'll probably shift that from my upstairs refrigerator to my downstairs freezer. That creates some distance. It gets it out of sort of my line of sight, and that sort of mitigates that. Similarly, I shift my food, or the food that I'm generally eating, out of the pantry that also has my kids' food and my wife's food. Why would I do that? So whenever I'm going to eat, whenever I'm preparing and looking for food, I really want to limit the amount of choices that I have. Obviously, I want to pick good, nutritious food, but I don't want to be cued or signaled by foods that are much more palatable than I am capable of consuming at the time. Could you fit them into your diet? Absolutely. I think you can work in a lot of different foods, a variety of foods, both minimally processed and moderately and highly processed. It's just about finding a good balance. But if you are deep into a diet, you're going to want to control what you see, so that you don't have a response to that visual cue of like peanut butter, like deep into a dieting phase. Like peanut butter's, it's not a trigger. It's just it is a food that I begin having a taste for whenever I'm deep into a dieting phase. So I just I shift that into a different cabinet, and there we go, and that's fine and dandy, and I don't have to look at it all the time. Do I eventually get to looking at it? Yeah, absolutely, because my kids will eat it, my wife will eat it, but by reducing the frequency of those cues, I sort of limit the stress on myself. So control your environment. Number 2, and this is a really important one, actually it's probably my favorite one, know your values. I think a big way that I do therapy and interact and coach in general is to figure out what a person's core values are, and also figure out what their values are for their goal, because they can be slightly different things. I mean, your values at home and your values at work and your values in any sort of leisure activities that you do, those are going to end up being different. You can have sort of underlying meta values that perpetuates all of them, but figuring out what your values are. Now, values aren't goals. They're not tangible things. They're things that exist outside of your goals, but they surround them and sort of support and undergird them. They're like a compass. They guide you and should be kept in mind whenever we're creating goals. So for me, like when I'm doing a dieting phase, I think I've talked about this before and I'll continue to talk about it. I like the idea of challenge and doing hard things. Now, challenge, having a life filled with challenge, that's not a goal. I mean, I guess it's a goal, but it's not something that is concrete and time bound. So living a challenging life, looking for challenge in my life, is sort of a value that I have for various reasons. And so that would be a value, a meta value, or ones that I stole from the Stoics. Wisdom, courage, justice, temperance. Those are values. I mean, to be wise, wisdom. It's not really an end state to that. Wisdom, knowing the things that are in and out of your control, it's a value. Courage, having courage in all situations and acting wisely in those situations. And then justice and temperance, those are the things that are values. And so figuring out your values for a particular diet, whether it's to improve your health, your longevity, because you want to spend as much time with your family as possible, something like that. I think that's very common, especially when I see in the clinic, talking to bariatric patients and having worked in weight management for a while. So those are some of the things, values. So know your values. Number 3, in terms of, because, we were talking about some, emotions and feelings, knowing how to identify, so noticing and naming your feelings. I think it is a skill that we don't talk about and we take sort of for granted, that being able to identify what you're feeling in any particular moment is a powerful tool to help distance you from particular thoughts and feelings. So let's say in a certain moment I am feeling irritable. Just even pausing and going, all right, I'm feeling irritable. And you can say it in your head, you say it out loud. I like to say it out loud. That sort of takes the edge off of it. First, you notice you're feeling something. When I'm feeling irritable, like I feel just a real sort of tenseness in my chest. And I could have some racing thoughts, but it's really just a tenseness. So I notice it. Then I name it, feeling irritable. If I'm feeling worried, I might, my hands might be shaking or something like that. I say that out loud. All right, I'm worried. All right. And that sort of takes the edge off. So noticing and naming whatever it is you're feeling can help take the edge off of some of that. So that's a really powerful thing. Number 3. Number 4, have a goal. I think just having a specific goal in mind gives us an end date and allows us to bear any sort of stressors that we're going through. Like if we find that certain foods are triggers or issues for us in terms of like a dieting phase that we're going through, and we've modified the cues, but we're getting deeper and deeper into this diet, and it's getting harder and harder. Our sleep might be disturbed, something like that. Knowing that this ends in 4 weeks, this ends in 2 weeks. This ends in a week, and then I'm transitioning to a different goal. That can be a really powerful way to make sure that you're adherent to whatever it is you're doing, whether it's your training, whether it's your dieting. Knowing that there is an end point, having a goal will allow you to stick to what it is you want to do. So number 4, having a good goal. And there are various ways to create goals, and we'll talk about that in other episodes. And number 5, identity shift. I think James Clear talks about this in his book, Atomic Habits. Great read. You should probably pick it up. Good listen on Audible too. Probably listened to it more times than I've actually, physically went down and read it. But there are different goals. So you have these outcome goals, and then you have these habit and systems based sort of goals, which are great. And then you have this identity shift. Now, these are all powerful ways to keep us doing things. Like for most people, creating a goal or an end goal is a good way to get you consistent and to keep you consistent towards getting what you want. So picking a bodybuilding show, doing a transformation challenge, various things like that. So that's sort of an end goal. Now, the habits and systems you have to develop, like let's say you decided to do your first bodybuilding show, which you absolutely should. You have to develop. And so, some of this comes about naturally. You do some research online, but you have to develop the habits and systems that facilitates you getting from where you are now to stage ready. Whatever stage ready is to you, you have to figure out, how to prepare your meals. What all do you want in your meals? Are you able to be flexible? How much flexibility do you want in your diet? What's your starting point? So by having an end goal, you are automatically forced into developing certain habits and systems. Some habits not so great, but we're sort of forced. And so you have that. But the biggest thing that you can do, if you want to, like let's say if we're doing this physique transformation and we want to maintain, which is probably one of the harder things. It's not getting there so much. It's just maintaining a semblance of what we have, depending on how lean you are. It's the identity shift. Now, for me, I don't bodybuild. I'm a bodybuilder. Now, I haven't stepped on stage in 10 years, something like that. But through reaching the goal of stepping on stage a couple of times and developing habits and systems and keeping those sort of integrated in my life, knowing that I will step on stage again, having training be a part of my life. Like my identity is that of a bodybuilder. I don't bodybuild. I am one. And so that is a powerful shift that will keep you, it's not even so much accountable, but it's your identity now. It's like you wouldn't ask a person who you knew went to church every Sunday for decades, like, what are they doing on Sunday? You ask them, they're gonna be like, I'm going to church. Like, it's so wrapped up in who they are that's just what they do. And so I'm not saying that identity shifts are perfect in all situations. Like, I don't think, shifting your identity to a person who is, contest ready 24/7 is a good identity shift. But if you just so happen to be so enthusiastic and inclined towards something like competing, every couple of years or every 3 years, just having that identity is probably the most powerful way to shift habits and behaviors. And to take it back to the actual subject of this video, reduce and almost even eliminate the coping strategy of using food as a way to cope with distressing feelings, because it is completely unaligned with, one, your values, and then two, your end goals of, being ready. But honestly, that's all I had for the day. If you like what I had to say, didn't like what I had to say, like, comment, subscribe, comment in the bottom. The channel's focus is on, philosophy, psychology, and physique, and sort of the interaction and intersection of those things. The upcoming episode is going to be probably on the mental health benefits of exercise. I think that's what it's going to be. Similarly, I am sort of cutting down on physique coaching now, doing a lot of writing, but still doing a decent amount of consulting. So I'm opening up that opportunity. Link in the description below. Fill out the forms and I'll get back to you via email. Like, subscribe, share, and as always, take what's useful and leave the rest.